Colin is going to come on. He's going to tell us a little bit about the outfitting that he does and where he is in New Zealand. And then I'm going to ask him about there he is right there. Colin, how are you?
Yeah, good, James, good.
Tell me where you're located in New Zealand. Give me a picture.
Well, I'm in the South Island, right in the middle, little town called Geraldine. It's about 2 hours south of Christchurch, and it's right in the heart of the Tar Range.
Okay, yeah, right in the heart of the Tar Range. That's great. How long have you been outfitting there, Colin?
I've been guiding for about 15 years.
Oh, okay. And have right at that location?
No, I started in the North Island, and basically there's no tar up there, so I was right into my tar hunting, so I shifted south so I could get stuck into the tar.
Okay, how is the season opening or closing? Where are we now in the tar season?
Well, tar, we can hunt all year round in New Zealand.
Oh.
The season never closes, but we generally like to hunt the tar through from March until about the end of July. That's winter for us in July, so tar rut's just starting to wane now. We'll probably hunt tar for another month before we stop.
Okay, tell me the typical hunter that you have come to you.
Our typical hunter is a North American hunter. He's already hunted in Africa. He's hunted all over the US, probably in Alaska as well. New Zealand's somewhere where most people go after they've been to Africa and are looking for something a bit different.
Now, what would you say the average age of the hunter would be?
Average age would be in his 50s.
Okay. And so, of the area that you're in, how many acres, or what does your concession consist of?
Okay, well, in New Zealand, really, there's no concessions. You're either hunting on private land, or else you're hunting on public land, which is a blanket concession where it's a free-for-all, and that there's no exclusive concession to public land. So if you're hunting on public land, everyone can hunt there. Every outfitter can hunt there. There's no management units where outfitter A has exclusive rights to hunt it. So you really got private land or all the public. Okay,
then give me another tip. If I were coming down to do some tar hunting, would I be better off if I'm let's say a trophy hunter looking for a big tar, would I be better off on public land or private land?
Well, you'd definitely be better off on private land. It's very much a bit like, imagine if you were elk hunting in, say, New Mexico or Colorado. There's a lot of pressure on public land. The helicopters are at them all the time. You've got a lot of recreational hunting pressure from the local hunters. There's no management in New Zealand for game. The government, they're not native. The government doesn't want the animals there at all. So the only really way that you can do any management is to have private land. So the private land animals are managed pretty well. Okay,
and the private land, is that fairly mountainous private land? I mean, is that tell me the difference between the private land and the public. I guess terrain-wise they're the same. Is that correct?
They're similar. If you think about most of the private land are sheep ranches. They are hilly and mountainous to some extent. Most of the public land, is closer towards the main divide. So you're looking at a Rocky Mountain style mountains with glaciers and very steep sided mountains, snow and ice.
Okay.
Whereas the private is more ranch country. It is definitely still mountainous, but more ranch country.
Okay.
But lower altitude.
All right. Tell me, Colin, do you use a helicopter when you go hunting?
No, we don't, James. We only hunt on private land, and basically we don't need one. No. We have trails up the valleys. We have trails along the top of the mountains, and if the tar are high, we drive up. If the tar are low, we go up the valley. So we basically get around in a vehicle, and then spot and stalk our tar.
Okay, good. Now, are there other outfitters there who actually use helicopters on a more regular basis?
Yeah, there are many outfitters that use a helicopter on a regular basis, James. I would say probably 75% of the outfitters in New Zealand will use helicopters for hunting tar, and that's mainly because they don't have any private land to hunt, so they're hunting on the public.
I see. Okay, well then, what's your feeling on helicopter hunting personally?
Me personally, I don't care for it myself. You know, I must admit that I've seen it, and when I worked for a North Island outfit, I have done a few 10 years ago, and definitely wasn't for me. Really, if you do your research, you can find good tar hunting on foot. In fact, your tar hunting on foot, you're going to get odds are you're going to get a better trophy than using a helicopter. So, me personally, I think there's really no excuse for not being able to get a tar on foot. And I've taken I think the oldest hunter I've had was 82, 83, and he got his tar on foot. So really, you don't need to use a helicopter. So.
Okay, I have a question on the chat room and they're asking, what are the laws in New Zealand pertaining to helicopter hunting? Now, it may not be talking about tar, just what are the laws pertaining to helicopter hunting in New Zealand?
Okay, well, at the moment, it depends on who you ask, whether it's legal or not. Resident hunters at the moment are getting mobilised and are very upset about all the helicopter hunting on the public land. But it hasn't been tested in court at this stage, and basically it hasn't been tested in court, and it hasn't been enforced. The government department that administers the public land basically isn't interested at all. So it hasn't been enforced if it is illegal, and it hasn't been tested in court. So it's depends on who you ask. It's a bit of a grey area right now, but it's probably like Barbara said. Really, the bottom line is you know, how do you hunt? You know, what's your ethical
right?
You know, how you,
So I would ask you, following that line of thought, then I would probably add that by saying, if you do, most outfitters own their own helicopter, or is this something that's brought in from outside?
No, most do not. Most will go to a helicopter company, and they'll have a deal with them where it's normally a fixed price where it's included, so that he knows he's got X amount of dollars tied up in this tar, and the pilot knows that the quicker he gets a tar, the more money is left for him after his running costs.
Right.
So most of them use a proper commercial, what we call a hunter pilot over here. They are very good pilots, there's no doubt about it, and they're very good at what they do. But generally the outfitters will contract another flying company.
Okay, so how do the hunters feel on public lands when they see helicopters flying over? They must see that.
They do indeed see that. And if you imagine some poor hunter that spent a day or two walking up a valley and then climbing up the side, and he's about to line up on the tar of his dreams, and some helicopter blasts over and shoots it from basically out from under him and hooks it on and carts it away, get pretty frustrating, and that story is replayed out every season. I hear from guys that have had helicopters zoom in and basically shoot a tar from that they're actually lining up on or trying to sneak up on. So people are upset about it, and yeah, I think it's just a matter of time, James, before it finally stops.